This is going to be the second video talking about the Playerscope FFXIV plugin, aka the Stalker plugin, aka the Creepy plugin, whatever you want to call it. So this second video is a follow-up because when I go to that GitHub page, I am now told this repository has been disabled. Access to this repository has been disabled by GitHub staff, so not the account owner, from what I'm going to hear from staff. And this is due to a violation of GitHub's terms of service. If you are the owner of this repository, you may reach out to GitHub support for more information. Now I want to talk about why this isn't really something to be celebrated. Yay, ding dong, the bitch is dead. Well, not quite. And as someone who has professionally worked a lot in security, like a lot in security, and has worked quite a bit with law enforcement in the past in order to solve a plethora of different issues, it has been my experience that with stuff like this, that there's kind of like two situations. Is the first one is the Hydra's heads respawn. So you take one out and then two more appear. The other one that is very common is that they find out, hey, we're found out. Oh my god, okay. And then they go underground. They go and bury even deeper, even darker. They do not disappear. They are not gone, but they are visually gonna change things. They're gonna be like a shapeshifter. And it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Like, if you take even an introductory comp sci course, like, you know that there's more repositories out there than GitHub. Like, one of the most basic commands, git init. Like, git can run independent of GitHub. You can host it on a plethora of different services. So it being banned from GitHub, that doesn't change anything. Like, what if they upload it to GitLab or oh god, what's the other one? Atlassian, whatever that one was. I've just used that one, I think, a billion years ago. Shoot, I just dated myself really hard with that one. I don't know if they're still doing it. And then there's, of course, that this GitHub repository was obviously public. Like, we could go through the source code, blah, 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 through that, which exposed to other concerns that I'm not even going to bring up in this video, that other people brought up to me, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about that. And so remember, they can make a private repository, and we can be none the wiser unless you obviously have link to that repository. Now, if that you need me to cut down to what you really need to take away is, this isn't gone. Unless the developer quit, this isn't gone. If the developer wanted to, this can easily be hosted in a private repository with a link being shared around. And then you can git clone, get all that stuff to your local PC or however. And again, I want to be quite clear. That is basic intro comp sci stuff. Like, this is basic shit. None of this is super dark information. My point is to the lay person that it is trivial to upload this to another hosting service. Now, I want to talk about some of the other issues that are still not addressed that I think are very, 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 very worth considering here. The first and most important, in my opinion, is really the kingpin of why this even happened in the first place, is account IDs are still exposed publicly. This is something that I do believe merits a hot fix, and like maybe Square Enix is going with the idea of, we're not going to publicly acknowledge it because we don't want to like spread out information that this happened too quick until we have a solution. But it's also, on the other side, it's one of those things where this is such an issue that to not hear anything leaves me at least in a bit of a weird state here. The next issue is the fact that this, even if they hid the account ID today, this moment, like before even this video came out, the databases still could be filled with data. Like, here's one thing that everyone should know very clearly, and I know that there's a lot of people who don't code here, but basically, if it exists in your code system, there's nothing stopping you from, say, taking a MongoDB tutorial, which they themselves tout takes only 5 minutes, and then just shuffling all the data. So like MongoDB, you don't even need a relational database structure. You just take the document in BSON, binary JSON basically, and you just shit it into that database. There's nothing stopping a developer from just taking your character data and shitting it into a database full of shit. And like, how to say it? The cat's out the bag. That database most likely already is created if they had the propensity, or rather the desire to do it. The cat's kind of out of the bag, and I don't really know how else to say it. So there's nothing stopping this association between your account ID, your character name, and remember, we've always had Lodestone ID be something that even if you change your character name, the Lodestone ID retains its number. So the really big issue here is even if Square Enix did hide the account IDs and shuffle the account IDs, which if you're hiding them, what's the point of shuffling them? You still have those character associations, because basically think about like a character here, and then you have another node here, and then you still have that graph created. You have between those two nodes the vertex, and it's just like there is the association's been built. And even if you say scrambled up the Lodestone IDs, well, the character names are still the same. And so, I'm sorry, even if you scramble up the load IDs and the account IDs are hidden now, you still have the character names, unless we are going to ask every single player to now rename their character. Now, if you are, say, into the naughty ERP scene, okay, you do have an option here, which is completely destroy your alt, or rename it, or whatever, recreate a new one, who knows, and that's after the account IDs are completely rechanged, and then you can go on your merry way doing your ERP bullshit there. So that is an option, but so long as you have one piece of the puzzle, and that's all they need. It's really that simple. They just need one connector between your current character and your old character. They can recreate that graph instantly. It's a joke. It is a trivial problem. And so even if the account ID was hidden today, and that's what I want to put and make really clear, these databases are most likely already out there, and the data can always be queried from whatever plugin they want to call it, whether it's Player No Scope 420. They could still get that database information because there's nothing stopping you from querying your own database. I feel crazy even saying that, but I think some people need to hear that. Unfortunately, because I know that a lot of people don't code and they're like, well, why could they query from that database? Because their database hosted on their own server, their own MongoDB cluster, whatever the hell it is, and they can access it at any time, just as any business with their own database can access their data at any time. Now I want to talk about this because it's just like some people are going to be like, oh, well, no one cares. Well, first of all, that's really lucky for you. I can tell you, I have received personally so many eggplant pictures that if I started at a farmer's market and I was selling the vegetables I can't even cope with it. God, how do you even say it? Like, I've dealt with some interesting people in the past. Like, there was one person who actually thought that I personally was underage. And yes, I'm actually being quite serious. Because my voice, I'm intentionally even deepening it right now for this video. But, and plus I have pneumonia still. I'm still coughing up crap. I've had to stop and start recording this multiple times. But, let's just summarize it to, I've dealt with a lot of creeps myself. But also, there's been people, like, there's one person who's in my free company who, I wasn't online at the time when they were saying that they were going to delete their account, but they basically sent me all my gil back, which I lent to them because they said, hey, I want to get a house, and then they sent all of it back, and then, like, quit. And this is one thing that I think that a lot of people don't really appreciate, is we have people from all walks of life play this game. There are people who are lawyers, doctors, dentists, and I have personally met politicians here. And yes, I am not bullshitting you. And so there are a lot of people whose privacy is paramount. And seeing a plugin like this spooks them. And rightfully so. You don't want to even be associated with playing video games depending on the career path that you're in. And yeah, you're going to be like, oh, what's wrong with video games? Yo, different walks of life, okay? Different walks of life. And it's just that clear-cut simple. And so unfortunately, I myself have lost someone who was like an OG supporter of the channel for like the past 4 years. Like, they're still very kind to me, but like, when I tell you, like, this person does not have a Discord, this person does not have like a Skype or anything, like, like literally, this person was like, you will talk to me only here. And totally fair, totally fine, I understand fully. And it sucks because stuff like this plugin is unnerving to a lot of people. And a lot of people are only focused on like the ERP scene. Even I brought up as an example that people are like, well, that's a poor example. Well, it's kind of what came to mind. And you know what? I like being a little bit more lighthearted. I'm naturally a bit of a brat, but I digress. Either way, Playerscope's not dead, and I still would not be like,